This is Robert Kraft, and I'm coming to you live on SNN Live, and we're broadcasting live from our studios in Los Angeles, California. With me right now is Chris Lahiji from LD Micro, ldmicro.com, and the LD Micro Index. Chris, welcome to SNN Live.
Thank you. I'm really happy that I'm finally in the studio.
I'm so happy to have you in the studio. We've been trying to get you in here for a while.
Well, yeah, and every single time we do an interview, there's always like distractions. I don't think Chris Berman would be really happy because there's people moving around on the set. When we go to our own event, there's always someone trying to distract me. They either hold up like gang signs or the middle finger and stuff. So it's just much nicer to be in a real, setting where something's not going to pop out of left field.
And you know what? Truffles always requires your attention, and that, to me, is very distracting as well.
Truffles will probably make another appearance this year, but, we have to bring him in because now what's happening, I don't know who the hell is doing this, and hopefully we'll find out eventually, but there are people now that put different things in Truffles, in Truffles' mouth, and sometimes it's like real food, and it gets sticky. So we're going to have to try to figure that out.
And by the way, for the record, Truffles is the official mascot of LD Micro.
He's also the head of the compensation committee.
Yes.
And chairman of the board. So he also does this, and he does this at Rocky Mountain Chocolate. He's a very busy bear, and
is he a shareholder? I just meant that.
Yes, he is.
Okay.
But
what's
interesting is that about the last time I saw you was in San Francisco, and MicroCap was just basically doing this, and as you could tell by my interview, I was pretty upset. Mid-February is when the LD Micro Index basically hit its absolute bottom, which was roughly 1560.
Real quick, before we even get to that, for our audience that may not know about the index yet, a lot of people know you, they know about the conference, but the index is relatively new. So let's get an overview of that first, and then we'll talk about what's been happening.
Yeah, so the LD Micro Index was created back in September 13th, 2015. Mm-hmm. And nothing against the Russell 2000 or the Russell 3000, but for a lot of people who focus on the space, SNN and LD included, we wanted to find a more accurate benchmark for the companies that we follow, that we invest in, that we cover. So, with the help of Thomson Reuters and several other keen allies, we created an index with the smallest microcap names. The current revision is 50 to 300 million, all of North America, and you have to trade more than $50,000 in average volume for an entire quarter. So there's 994 constituents that we follow, and 57% of these names are NASDAQ heavy. So what we did is we created this, and we gave it, we made it in a way that anyone can access it anywhere. There's a lot of websites now where you can type in LD Micro and get access to the index, or always you can go to ldmicro.com, which is the home of the index itself.
So why did you do this? What inspired you to get this off the ground?
Average market cap in the Russell 2000 is over $1 billion. Average company in our portfolio is roughly $140 million. Funny enough, average market cap in the LD Micro Index is $140 million. So it's the same thing. Like if you drive a Hyundai Elantra and something goes wrong with the Hyundai, you can't use a Hummer manual to fix it. I think the Russell is great, but it's great for people who are doing small cap names between $500 and $2 billion. Right. But if you're looking at 30 million to 300 million, you don't have any place to go to figure out exactly what's going on. I just wanted a better system. It's like you go to golf and you look at the marker on the ground. It's like, oh, there's 130 to the hole. Or you can basically go through that camera, that Bushnell, and it tells you it's 124 yards. 130 and 124 yards is a big difference for someone who knows what the hell they're doing. The same thing is true with this. This is all we've been doing for the last 13, 14, 15 years. So I wanted a more accurate measure. And we realized that if we wanted it, everyone would want it. And that's why we basically made it open source. The cost is a lot. It's worth it. It's worth the money that we've put into it. But it's also one of those things where we feel that everyone can use it to their advantage.
And how? Like, for instance, let's say the lay investor
okay, you have a portfolio. Right. You have a microcap portfolio. Say the microcap portfolio is down 5%. Mm-hmm. Okay? It's like, shit, my portfolio is down 5%. It's like, I wonder what the rest of microcap did. 6 months ago, you'd be up a creek without a paddle. 6 months ago, you'd be like, where the hell am I going to go to get this information on how the overall market, microcap segment did? Where would I go? You would look at the Russell 2000. And I'm sure the Russell 2000 has some accuracy, but since September, you will see that there is a big transparency between the LD index and the Russell. So we just wanted a more accurate measure. Now you could be like, oh, my portfolio was down 5%, and the LD micro index was down 6.5%. I guess my portfolio outperformed the index.
Got it.
So that's the thing. It becomes a measuring tool. Even with companies, say a company was up 10%, and the LD micro index was up 1.5%. Well, you did 8.5% better than the average. You didn't have this information before, which is why we want to make it available to as many different sites and locations and media outlets as possible. It finally gives you a more accurate read as to what the hell is going on. Straight up. And if people want to still use the Russell 2000, that's fine. That's okay. But if you're dealing in this space, I think that the most accurate, efficient way of getting the information that you need is through our data. And my take is, it's still small because it was just recently launched, but we feel that there is a significant value add.
So what are the different things that you can track on there? You say it's very data driven. So what kind of, I go on the site, I see it's up this much percent or down this much percent. Like what else is there that I can see?
Okay, so you get the index, you get the breaking news, which is probably pop culture gibberish, someone belittling me, some micro news, some macro news, some micro news. We'll do some pre-market hours, some during market hours, and a little bit after hours. So you see the breaking news, you see the index. You see 5 different indicators. So the biggest gainers, biggest losers, most active in volume. The largest change in volume as a percentage basis. So when a company trades only 30,000 shares and then trades 3 million shares, they usually go to the top of that list. And for the first time, sector change in MicroCap. So we have 11 different sectors, ranging from healthcare, consumer cyclical, tech. And you could tell exactly what is going. So you see the index, and then you get a more clearer view as to what's going on in the space through the indicators. With the site now, you can get not only all the news on the index companies, you can get all the news of all MicroCap. And then finally, if you really have some time, no life, or your wife kicked you out of the house, you can use the screener, which basically shows the entire universe of MicroCap 8,000, which is roughly 8,000 companies. Mm-hmm. So the index is 1,000 companies. The indicators are all 8,000 companies. The news feed is all 8,000 companies, and finally the screener is the whole enchilada as well. So you're getting a small variant, and then you're getting the big picture. And what's crazy is that this stuff actually works. If there's a press release out, it gets picked up by the website. If there's a company that didn't file, it gets removed from the list. I mean, we're trying to fine tune it, but we think it's the clearest picture in the space that you can get. What's crazy is that small cap has something, mid cap has something, large cap has something. They have all sorts of data and analytics. MicroCap for the last 10, 20, 30, 40 years hasn't. We have to use other instruments, other tools that may or may not be compatible with what we're trying to do.
It launched approximately in September. What's transpired since then? What's like the first readout? Like if you were to tell a news organization, hey, okay, this is what I've seen thus far, here's what we got.
A lot. Okay. So it started at 2,000. It went to 2,030, and we're like, okay, this is going to go straight to 3,000 points, okay? And then it, as everyone knows, it took a dive. September was shit. First couple weeks of September were good. And then mid-September, October, November, December, January, February 12th, man, it was like, oh my God, we're down almost 30% from where we started. We started the index at the top. That was the joke. And then something really interesting happened, Bobby. In mid-February, I think buy to sell ratio was 3-to-1. Which was the first time since early September. And there was real volume coming into these names. And this is something that the microcap guys haven't seen in a while, money coming into the space. Mm-hmm. So we thought that was a very positive indicator, and since then, it's been going up virtually every single week. So we've gone from 1,550, and today, thank God that I'm here on such a special day, this is the first time since mid-September that we started higher than, we're now higher than what we started. So we went to 2009, I think, and closed at 2002. So if you basically had the index in September, you'd be basically up, a couple cents on the dollar. But it's still huge because we're back to par, and we'll see where it goes from here. What's also interesting is that last year the Russell kind of crushed us. The Russell was only down 1.5% from September 13th to the end of the year. We were down 6.5%. But I think this year we're outperforming the Russell by 4 to 6 percentage points. So 4 to 6% may not seem like a lot, but when you look at the size and you look at the scope of how many companies we're following, 4 to 6% is huge.
But why is that important? Because isn't the way in which that the index is calculated, that's totally separate than how the Russell index is calculated. So
we don't
to
know
say
how,
that there's a difference.
No, we don't know how the Russell calculates it. The way it's market weighted. So
Right.
in this case, the $250 million company is 5 times the size as a $50 million company.
Gotcha.
So obviously the onus is always going to be between 200 and 300 million. That's going to be the heavy lifting. But it also shows you that there's more money coming into the smaller names than the larger. So that is a key ingredient that you normally wouldn't have, where it's like, the speculative names, are more in demand. And this is big because we can also kind of figure out exactly how much cash flow is coming into the system as well, which is,
and in what sector too, and
which is not public, right? So that's the real edge. The real edge is you kind of now know it's like, okay, so this is what small cap is doing, and now this is what micro cap is doing, and that's where we want to focus. We've never deviated from our space. And I think over time, and hopefully if this thing actually generates some revenue, which we're hoping that it does, we can add more data metrics. We can add more insight. We can add dollar amounts. So this is essentially, if this was a baseball game, there's been 2 pitches thrown. Okay, we're not even in the bottom of the first. It'll be very fascinating to see how it evolves. But we honestly want something which allows you to find out about any company, any segment, any sector, real time, raw data. And we will not deviate from that. We don't want to be an opinion site or, a place where you can, have an ad for a Jaguar or something like that. If you want that, you go to Yahoo Finance. For us, it's more about this is the information that's important. Act on it the way you want.
So just to start, what have been some of the are there some sectors that are more heavy or, there's more companies in
tech, healthcare are big. It's tech heavy. It's really interesting. It's essentially it's like the event, but on a much more grand scale. So tech, healthcare, consumer, these are the things that lead the way. Hopefully we will recalibrate the index, but it's all about fine tuning and making sure that when somebody goes there, they won't be inconvenienced with anything. They have full control. They have complete control over where they want to go and what they want to see.
So this is kind of a forward-looking question in that, over the next couple months, what are some of your goals for the website? What can some of our audience maybe expect to see that you guys have currently in development?
Real-time information that actually moves the needle, okay? Accurate information every single day, and then hopefully over time some outside content on the company side, so that they can showcase all the things that make their companies unique. So what I'm talking about are the profiles. So if you go to the profiles right now, anyone goes in and types it in, they'll just see some basic information, all the details that you need, company news, additional news, etc. What we're launching is something called Premium Profiles, which gives companies the ability of putting a logo, uploading a PowerPoint presentation, uploading a video or a report that they think is important to showcase why the company is unique and distinctive. We're going to be rolling that out in the next year. And it gives companies, in our opinion, quite an advantage because it allows them to input more data and allows the person who is going to it to kind of get the information that they want that they wouldn't access anywhere else. They may access it on the site, but in this case, they would already be at the site. They would look at the profile and ultimately get more information.
So what's been the initial feedback so far?
Just a lot of, long pauses. Just a lot of like, great, cool. There was one guy that I will mention. I won't mention his last name because he'll feel embarrassed. His name is Joey, and he lives in the Midwest. And for people who know him, know who I'm talking about, I showed him this project a year and a half ago. Basically just like, no visuals, just this is what I'm thinking on doing. And he was like, that's great. So what? And you know, my entire goal since that was just to try to convince people that this is not only topical anesthesia for the microcap world. This is something that you can use and rely on every single day to make you an even more astute investor and astute analysis, blogger, writer, what have you. And the way I look at it is that, say that there's been like a mathematical equation that hasn't been solved in 300 years. And there's a guy who just comes in dressed in crappy clothing. He looks at the equation, has no math background, and says, I got it. I know what the answer is. And he puts the answer on the board, and he leaves, and he's never to be seen again. I'm hoping that analogy will turn out to be true for the website, where everything that we have has been so desired for so long that now that you're finally showing people, they really don't know what to think of it. So there are guys who basically say, this is awesome, we're going to use it every day, this is fantastic, thank you, Chris, don't screw it up. And there are people who are like, okay, cool, this is interesting, I see what you've done there. And they still don't know how to implement it in their daily trading or their day-to-day life.
Right.
So I think that the learning curve is different for everyone, but I think that the overall consensus is one that, why the hell didn't we have this 15 years ago when there was 12 or 13,000 companies and there was a lot of volatility? Well, 12 or 13 years ago, I didn't have any money.
And the technology was
I didn't have any contacts. I didn't have any alliances. I went to New York in 2002. I went to 10 people and I got 10 no's. I went to New York in September of last year. I went to 10 firms and I got 10 yeses. One of my favorite lines is, it only took me 15 years to become an overnight success. So it's just getting those people to trust us with this information, utilizing the information in an easy-to-follow fashion, and then making it something that people use. Like, you wake up, you probably take a shower, you brush your teeth, you eat your bowl of Honey Nut Cheerios, I hope, and then you go on your business. Now, the question is, you're going to do all that, and you're going to add, say, a couple of vitamins. A lot of people know vitamins are good for them, but most people don't take them. Some people take them religiously. So that's the analogy I use. It's like a lot of people are like, Chris, this is great. Just give me what you have. And they eat all the vitamins, and they'll probably go to the hospital pretty soon. And there's people who are like, wow, these vitamins are good for me, but I don't know if I want to take them just yet. So it all depends. There are people who use this 5 hours a day, and there are people who use it for 30 to 60 seconds. They come in, look at the index, look at the indicators, and leave, and they never come back. Mm-hmm. So it's just trying to get them to come back again and again, trying to add features, which we will over time. But we never want to be too obtrusive what guys are trying to do. We're letting people kind of control their own destiny, but in this case, give them a better compass. This is a better compass, Bobby. Back in the day, it's like, I need to find these companies. How the hell do I go about finding it? Well, there's ways to do it, but it's not easy. Now you have a resource. The way that I look at it in grand terms is that if I was 17, 18 years old, starting in this business again, this is the site that I would be on all the time. It would replace Reddit as my homepage. Okay? And
wait, hold on. Reddit's your homepage?
Oh, no, it's not my home. My homepage is whatever that Firefox thing is, or the Chrome thing. I don't even know how to put a homepage, but that's the logic. So it's something that I know I would use every day. And if I'm the picky guy. I don't want to eat any vitamins. It's like, I don't know what's in there. I don't trust it. I'm too lazy. I forget, etc. The more you go, the more you'll realize how it's important and how you can use it to your benefit. So will there be people in the microcap world that never use this? Absolutely. Okay? But will there be enough people that use it to get better insight into the space? I don't know how they wouldn't. Because it's something that we use religiously every day. We feel that there's also a net benefit, whether you're a small investor or a big investor, whether you're in the industry as an executive, whether your company is part of the benchmark, whether you're investing in the benchmark. There's all sorts of ways. But again, you control your own destiny. That's all it is. It's like, here's a compass. Go on.
So one last thing I want to ask about the index, because Can it be the companies listed on the index? Are they in every? Are they listed on every exchange? You know, like are
Yes.
there Australian companies on?
No, so
No, Australia.
only,
Okay.
excellent question, only North America.
Okay.
So TSX, Pink Sheets, OTC, NYSE, NASDAQ.
So will there be a potential to include them? Because there's a lot of interesting Australian stories. There's a London-based. I mean, television.
To be continued. To be continued. Obviously, we want to do it, but then there would be, we'd have to make partnerships and stuff. We just kind of, 8,000 companies in North America traded is a pretty big market. Once we master that, then we will go to the Turkish exchange, and then Iran, Bolivia, Brazil. I stop nowhere. French Polynesia. We'll be everywhere, man. I'm telling you, this will be the most prominent thing. Dow, who gives a crap? Dow Jones, no one checks that stuff. Those industrials are from 1952. NASDAQ, who cares about that? NASDAQ, please. There's only like 5,000 companies that have changed the world. S&P 500, that's just a name. Only people are... See, I'm having my Mike Tyson moment. You know, when he...
I'm
when
letting you go.
It's like, my style is flawless. My defense is impregnable. No one can stop us. No. The reality is LD is a very small, minute part of the market, and that's where our focus is. We are not going to go anywhere else. The LSE is something, though, that we're looking at very carefully because there's a lot of action there. Mm-hmm. But in terms of global presence, my man, I don't see it happening anytime soon.
So for disclosure purposes, do you own some of these stocks? Are there buy-sell recommendations on the site? I mean, how does it work?
No buy-sell recommendations on the site, no opinions whatsoever. We want to keep this objective, but of course, I am a microcap investor. There are names on the site that are going to be in the indicators, are going to be in the breaking news that we may have a position in. But in no way will we advocate people to buy or sell based off our opinions or recommendations. There's none of that. And that's the thing. It will always be data-driven. Okay, there's no foul play. It's like, yeah, let's get these guys up. Let's get people notoriety and buy the stock, and then see if volume changes. We don't do that. We've never done that in our history. We don't front run stocks. I don't care. It's just not in our nature. Mm-hmm. Because the take is, a wise man once told me there are only two things you cannot buy: your time and your name. So I would never do anything disingenuous, and I'm glad that you brought it up. But yes, we do own names that are in the index, and we do own names in MicroCap. We've been investing since 2002, and there are some good years, and I don't have to tell you, there are some bad years too.
So where can our audience go and find more information?
ldmicro.com. And also use the index on Google Finance at google.com. Just type in LD Micro, all one word, so you can compare the index to the Russell. You can compare it to your stocks. You can compare it to what Rick's Cabaret did. Just an example. You could do all of that at the leisure of your own home or office.
My name is Robert Kraft, and I'm coming to you live on SNN Live, and we're broadcasting live from our studios in Los Angeles, California. With me again has been Chris Lahiji from ldmicro.com. Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you, guys. See you soon.